So you've been trying to quit drinking, but that first drink is in the back of your mind. The cravings are going crazy. It doesn't seem like you can stay away from drinking for very long. And ultimately, you end up going back to drinking. I've been there, done that. This is a cycle that continues when people try to moderate, quit drinking, deal with their drinking. It seems like no matter what, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking about drinking, and eventually, the drink tends to win. So today, what we're going to talk about is how to stay away from the first drink. So, Terry, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Sorry about losing everybody, and I hope you're back. And looks like, yeah. So things are going well. When I first, when I was drinking, I don't know how many times I told myself, yeah, I'm just going to go and have one, or maybe two, or maybe three. And it never worked like that. I had to quit. I had to quit completely. And that's just the nature of alcoholism. I'm an addict, and if I have that one drink, it's gonna make me crave more, and I'm not gonna know when to stop. So yeah, it's a tough thing. But for me, the only drink I have to stay away from is that very first drink.
All right,
That's what I have to do.
and what are the tools you use to stay away from that?
First of all, I have to build a life, and I've built a life that I don't have to drink my sorrows or my anxiety away from. I try to lead a good life, and that's first and foremost. But I also, do something for my sobriety every day. I mean, I spent years and decades and the longest time trying to figure out how to drink and how to stay, keep alcohol in my system and get away with it, not be called out on it. So I have to continue to do work so that doesn't come up again, and that's really important for me. That's what I need to do every day.
Now,
And so that's go ahead.
when you first got sober, so like I know for me, yeah, got to build a new life, got to deal with all this stuff, got to have a life that you don't want to drink from. But in the beginning, like the first week, if you had said, in order to stay sober, you need to build a new life, I would have been like, well, I really don't have time to do that. And trying
Yeah.
to build a new life makes me want to go drink because my old life kind of sucks and that's the one I'm living right now. So I think what we're looking for is what are some of the tools that you had. Now, I know for me, it was understanding that drinking was the cause of a lot of my problems. So understanding that, okay, my life might not get perfect. Everything might not be right off the bat good, hunky-dory, great. All right, so we have to look at that and we have to understand, okay, that first and foremost is what our struggle is okay, we need to stay away from that drink because if we don't, then all bets are off. I can't build a new life if I can't stay away from that first drink because if I have that first drink, I'm going to keep drinking, I'm going to continue in the cycle, everything's going to be crazy. So the
Yeah.
first thing that I did when I was like, okay, I need to quit drinking was to sit there and say, hey, look, this is the problem. No matter what, if I continue to drink, everything's going to keep spiraling out of control. Drinking has never made anything better in my life. It's never helped. Okay, it might have made me more funny or whatever I think, but it didn't fix the issues. And I think so many people trying to fix the issues, trying to get a better life, are missing the point of, first and foremost, you need to get sober. That's why people go to rehab. Because it's like, okay, I don't care what you do. You can have 500 therapists that you see 24 hours a day. But if you continue to drink, nothing's going to help. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Like, you can't therapize a drunk guy. It doesn't work. You're just talking. Like, when you have a drunk person call you and it's like, oh, I can't talk to them because they're drunk and it doesn't really fix anything. It's just wishy-washy BS, right? And that's the state that we're in when we're trying to quit drinking. And if we continue to drink, we can't fix our life, which is going to help us stay away from it. So what we need to do is we need to build up defenses against that first drink. We need to understand why we have cravings. We need to understand why we have weaknesses, and we need a plan of action of what we're going to do. So in the beginning, what was that like for you, Terry? What was your plan of action? What did you try to do?
Well, I think the very first thing for me was I had to go to rehab. And I don't know that everybody has to go to rehab, but you definitely need to see a doctor to help you determine if you need to go to rehab. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was taking alcohol off of the table. And now for some people, including myself, when I got out of rehab, I still kind of had a little bit of that self-will of the fact that I had control of this thing. And I did start to drink again. And once again, when I took that first drink, I was off to the races again. I was drinking like I had never stopped. It was just amazing. And that's one of the crazy things about this, is that people can quit for a while and then they start up again. And maybe they can even drink controllably or sort of controllably for a while, maybe months, maybe a couple years. But eventually, if they are addicted to alcohol, they're going to go back to where they were, or if not, get worse. And that was the case with me. I was right back to where I was before I went to rehab immediately. But some people can go for a little while. But I do have yet to see somebody that's a true alcoholic be able to go back and moderate for a little while. So it had to come completely off at the table for me. And then I had to do continuous work to keep from taking that first drink. Now it's talking to other people, getting onto these webinars. That's helpful, and talking to people in rooms, or the doctor or the hospital outpatient program, talking to other sober alcoholics. That really helped me a lot, because they had been through many of the same things I had. And that's the sort of thing that helped me a lot, is just realizing, being reminded every day that I have this thing, and if I take that first drink, I'm going to go back to where I was. My mind and my alcoholism wants to tell me that, nah, you're okay. You can have that one. And I don't know, maybe I can right now. I don't know. But I'm not going to take that risk anymore, because if I really look back at my history objectively, I know that I can't have that one. I mean, how many times through my life did I think that I'm going to go and have one? And I never did, or like I'd only buy one beer or something, and then I'd have to go back and get more. That's how it would happen every single time. And that's just the nature of it. That's what happens with me. That's what happens with many of the people I've worked with, and that's just how it goes. It's a difficult thing to get through your head, really. I mean, I couldn't get it through my thick skull, but eventually I did. And now it has to stay off of the table, and that has to be the most important thing. Is I have to stay away from that first drink. I mean, I'm 8 years sober, but I'm only one drink away from being back to that alcoholic insanity. Yeah. And that's something I have to keep in mind all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's important to look at, because we have those thoughts. And like David says, one thing that helps him is getting out and walking. Yeah, and I find that distraction from the drink is helpful, because a lot of people just sit there and stew about, I want a drink, but I can't have a drink. And then eventually you lose because you don't have the tools yet. But if you do something different, call someone, talk to someone, go for a walk, go to a meeting, go to a church, work, whatever it is that will take your mind off of it, watch TV, something, and really understand, okay, this is my new life, and my new life doesn't have alcohol in it, right? Very, very important. And we start to look at that and say, okay, well, I need to build step by step, moment by moment, saying no to what I ultimately want. But unfortunately, in our culture, we have been trained that we need to get whatever we want right now. Like, who made me king? Nobody. So get in line, and I don't deserve what I want right now. Right? Just because we can watch whatever TV show we want at the click of a button, have a guy deliver food to our house, including alcohol, every minute, doesn't mean we can get all that. Doesn't mean we're entitled to it. Doesn't mean it's something that's helpful,
Yeah.
right? And we have to look at that, because what you're doing is you're giving into the impulse. And once we start to live on purpose rather than by impulse, life starts to change, and we start to get new muscles around willpower and desire that we didn't have before, and we start to get new ways of living that are things we didn't even dream of before, and they work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, when I was drinking, I didn't have any desire to do those things like going out for a walk, exercising, going on hikes, walking the dog. Well, I did walk. I didn't have a desire to walk the dog. I just had to, because he needed a lot of exercise. So I did go do that, or any of those other activities that somebody may find enjoyable. I just wanted to drink, and that was a really difficult thing to get through. But once I was able to get the alcohol off of the table, then I was able to start to do those things. And even though it wasn't so much fun, because I wasn't in physically very good shape at all, and my mind was still really foggy, I kind of made myself go out for those walks, go out and try to get some exercise. Of course, I did all that with the doctor's supervision. I had to, because I was pretty messed up, and I didn't want to do any more damage than I'd already done. But that's what I started to do, and that started to give me some motivation, because I started to enjoy those things, and I really enjoy it now. I live up in the woods, and it's great. I go and walk the dog. This morning, there was a deer right by us, and he came flying out and scared the heck out of us. And it was fun, and I love that sort of thing. We saw a moose, a couple of weeks ago. That was pretty cool, and scary at the same time. Those suckers are big. But it's finding things that I enjoy doing. I do enjoy going to meetings here and there, and that's what I do one a week right now. As far as in person, I do a couple of Zooms, and I enjoy that too, just because I get to hear the other stories, and I get to hear other people's perspectives, and I learn something. I learn things about myself through the eyes of other people and their experiences, and that does help me a lot. But DMC asked an interesting question: what was one thing that made you want to quit drinking? And I think everybody has a different answer for that. And I could tell you it was the loss of my marriage, loss of my job, finances going down the tube, worried about losing my house, but none of those things got me to stop drinking. And there was one that I do remember that was I remember my dog. He looked at me, and you could see it in his eyes that he had this look like, "What's wrong with you?" That was just the weirdest thing. I've never experienced that before in my life, and that was a slight motivator, but it didn't get me to quit drinking right away. What it was for me, it was a medical emergency that almost killed me. And so that's what it was for me. And for some people, they don't get through those medical emergencies. So it is dangerous stuff. A lot of people, that one thing will be, their children. That's a huge one, definitely. Family, things like that. And that's completely understandable. But for me, I really had to quit. And I've seen this with other people. I had to quit for myself. I've seen a lot of people that they didn't quit because of their children. And it's scary stuff, the danger that they got themselves and their kids and other people into. It's tough. But it's a different story for everybody. But the solution can be the same, and that's changing our mindset, changing the way we think about alcohol. And that's a big thing for me, at least, is just getting into that sober mindset.
Well, and it's kind of like, once you realize that alcohol is the problem, like there's someone here that says, their Achilles heel is the girl they're dating, they binge drink together. Okay, now at some point you're probably going to wake up and be like, wait a minute, this is not a healthy relationship. Like, if all we do is binge drink together, there's probably some problems there that make us want to binge. Maybe we don't like being together and we got to drink, or whatever it might be. And, it's like when you wake up and you're like, wait a minute, the problem was this all along. And that's how it was for me with alcohol. Like, I had to quit because if I didn't, I would have lost everything, including my life. And so that was the first motivator to get me to stop drinking. And then I was looking at, okay, I woke up and I realized alcohol was my problems. Like Terry just rattled off marriage, this, that, finances, house. Even his dog was like, dude, what's your problem? Hey, buddy, like, seriously. Like, I know you're giving me dog food and all, and I appreciate that, but you got something wrong with you. And once you realize that all that stuff, including the dog, was because Terry was drinking. Like, it's not until you realize that you're going to get sober. Because if Terry was like, well, I probably just imagined that because whatever, and my spouse left because of this, and my house and my finances is because of this, it's not really drinking. But you're like that lover that's protecting the abuser. Your lover is abusing you, and you're like, oh, well, he had a bad day. Oh, no, well, this happened. Oh, hey, this happened. No. Your drinking happened. That's what happened. Then you deal with the other stuff. All right, it might still be there. But the fact is, drinking is what is causing a lot of these problems. Mentally, at least. And once you realize that, now it's like, I don't want to drink. I don't want to go back to that. What would make me, for the taste of a beer? Really? Get out of here. Is that really what you're protecting? Oh, well, I'd like to have wine one day. Really? You had wine the other day. That's why you're in this mess. You don't need to have another one. Well, they came out with a new brand. Yeah, okay, they all taste the same. Once we start to realize, as Dave says, alcohol is the common denominator. That's the problem. You don't believe me? Quit for 6 months. Watch what happens. Or you might be a miserable drunk, like, oh, well, I quit, but I really want to drink. Okay, I still wanted to drink even when I went to rehab. I wanted to drink in rehab. Like, if they had a booze in rehab, I would have been like, yeah, let's go to the kegger. It's an AA kegger. Yeah, what's better than that? But I had to realize that, okay, I need to quit. I need to quit.
Yeah, totally. Real quick, Michael Morris said, hey, guys, just trying to make it and just debating if I need medical. And, awesome for reaching out and calling yourself out. But if you're debating, go. I mean, yeah. If it's the cost of whether you need to go get medical advice, just go to the doctor. That's not too expensive. And I'm sure it's less expensive than what maybe you're spending on alcohol per month. So that would be worth it right there. Your doctor can steer you in the right direction. Absolutely. So go. Definitely. But DMC said binge drinking 1 day a week and doing really embarrassing stuff one too many times nearing 50 made me wake up as I was afraid of my future self while drunk. And I worked with a guy that was he was a binge drinker, and he went, same thing, he was about the same age when he made the realization that he needed to stop too. It was, that one too many times falling down the stairs or whatever it was for him, and doing those embarrassing things. And the rest of the week he was completely successful, had a successful business on his own going, but he could see that it was just going in the wrong direction. That's his life was going in the wrong direction, and he had to stop because it was the same thing. It was that first drink. It'd be the weekend. He's just going to have a couple, and it would be way too many, and then he'd do something embarrassing or damaging to damage his relationship or whatever it was. And it's something he had to do.
Absolutely.
But alcohol, it's a common denominator right there. We have to take it off the table, absolutely.
And did we take the one about he started to drink, but he's dating a lady who's drinking?
No, not yet.
Okay, so DMC says, guys, I've started dating again. A lady who likes to drink. Am I putting my sobriety at risk? Well, does she know your plight? Like, does she know you're an alcoholic? And are you comfortable around it? I would say those are the answers. I mean, Terry's wife occasionally has a glass of wine, and he's okay. So, I mean, that's yeah, Terry. Maybe go into that. Like, when did you
Yeah.
start to be okay with that? And if you got out of rehab and dated someone who drank, would that have been difficult? I know for me it would have been. If I came home and my spouse was drinking, I might not be sober today.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, what I've done and what I suggest that everybody does is take everything very slowly, slower than you think you need to take it. So when I finally did get sober, like I said, I went to rehab. I started drinking. I had a medical emergency, and I got sober. And that I've been sober since that medical emergency. Now, when I got home, I was not married at the time. The woman I'm married to was my girlfriend. We were not living together, and that was on purpose, because we hadn't moved in together at that point. But we were going to wait, and she had things she needed to deal with in her life. I had to deal with my addiction, and so I got out. And I remember there was no alcohol in my house because I'd already asked her to remove it all. And I actually had some pain pills, and I didn't have a problem with those, but I had those taken away as well, just in case. So I had everything taken away, and even mouthwash, stuff like that, anything with alcohol in it, I had it taken away. And that was because I didn't know what was going to trigger me. I had no idea. I'm new to sobriety. What do I do? What do I got to stay away from? So my solution was to stay away from everything, which is pretty much impossible when you go to the supermarket and things like that. But that's what I tried to do. Now, as far as my now wife, and we still dated and we went out, and she did not drink when we went out. But that's because I communicated. We communicated with each other, and I said, "You're okay having a glass of wine if we go out to eat. I'd rather not have any in the house right now because I don't know." You know, we communicated kind of that way, but she chose not to have drinks when we went out, and that's because she's normal. She can have a glass of wine or not have a glass of wine. You know, she's just as fine with ginger ale or whatever, and so that's how we did that. And after about a year and a half, we got married and moved in. You know, living together and same thing, there was really no alcohol in the house. And then after a little while, you know, constant communication about this. Telling her what I'm doing. I'm going to a meeting, or I'm doing this for sobriety. I'm going to go meet some sober guys, and we're going to go bowling or whatever. And, you know, that's what we did. Eventually it was like, you know, you can have wine in the house. How about if we just don't leave it sitting on the kitchen counter? And we kept it in a cabinet. And that's kind of what we do now. And is she has wine in the house. There's nothing else. She just likes her glass of wine here and there, and it's in the house. I have no problem with it. Now that I've learned what will trigger me, I'm fine with it. She can have drinks when we go out and stuff. I can go to parties where there's alcohol being served. If I go to parties, I go when the parties, you know, when it's, you know, party starts at 6. I'm going to go at 6. And then, you know, you can tell pretty much like right after dinner or dessert or whatever. That's usually when it's just a little bit after that. It's time for me to leave because people are starting to get drunk, and that's not my scene anymore. Don't really like to be around that. But that's sort of the thing. But as far as, you know, you started dating this girl, yeah, I think just open communication. And it's where you are. It's not for her, and it's what are you comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think also he said he's never been diagnosed as an alcoholic. I don't think any of us have, but I mean, I'm an alcoholic. I know that for a fact. And so I would be careful. Now, one of the things he also says is, you know, it's an early relationship, and he still has to find out what she's like if she gets really drunk. To me, there's nothing that's more of a turnoff right now than a drunk woman. Like that would, like if I was at the bar and some drunk woman was coming on to me, I'd be like, well, first of all, I'm married. But if I wasn't, I'd be like, you know, that's not attractive to me at all. Not in the slightest bit. I don't want anything to do with that because I know what that's about, and I know what that's like, and I don't want that in my life. That would be a deal breaker for me. And if that means I'm picky, that's what that means. But in sobriety, we need to be a little picky. We need to be like, hey, these are the people that I need to be around. These are the people I don't need to be around. There's plenty of people who don't drink or don't get drunk that are out there. Like, why would I do that? That'd be like, okay, I'm a drunk and I'm sober and I'm deliberately going to go get a job as a bartender even though I've never worked in that field before. Why? Are there not other jobs? Are there not other things to do? Like, I get it if that's what you did. If you were a bartender and that's how you make your living, all right, like Terry was a chef. He's got to be around alcohol. That's a different story, but going out there and deliberately putting things in your life that are going to trigger you, that's a little bit difficult. Now, some things you can look at as time goes on. Terry, in the beginning, get the mouthwash out, get everything out. I'm sure now he's like, okay, well, I'm all right with the mouthwash and the glass of wine my wife has. I'm okay. For me, I'm okay with non-alcoholic beer now. All right, it took me 5 years to get there, and I was very delicate with it, but I was like, hey, let's try this out. I'm pretty secure, and when I had them, I was like, okay, let's make sure there's no weirdness, and make sure it doesn't make me crave it. And, here I am 3 years later. I've had lots of non-alcoholic beer. It doesn't make me crave anything. Now, if it did make me crave, I'd be like, yeah, there's a problem. But it didn't. I'm like, hey, I just wanted the taste, and that's really all I want. There we go. I was bored with water and seltzer water and stuff like that, and, whatever. But I think that's an important lesson. I waited 5 years, and I was very delicate with it. There you go. Bob says, is it harder when you always drink alone? I don't know. For some people, maybe. For some others, maybe not.
Is what harder?
Staying sober, I think.
Oh, I see. I drank alone. Yeah, it was pretty hard, but I don't know. I think it's the same either way, whether you drink with other people or not. But it's just because you drank alone doesn't mean you need to be alone now after you've gotten sober. So you definitely still get out there. Even if you're kind of an introvert, you can still do it. You can still talk to people. It's not easy. I don't like making phone calls. I don't like talking to people I've never met before. But I do it.
Yeah.
Because the most important thing is staying sober. Just like dating a person that drinks, I have to look at my sobriety first. That has to be the most important thing. If I don't stay sober, nothing else in life will matter if I don't stay sober, because I'm probably not going to survive.
Yeah.
So that has to be the top priority. Mrs. B said, I put myself in rehab when I got home, and when I got home, my mom was wasted and drinking. She lives with me and my husband. We've always taken care of her, but that was all. Yeah, that's tough when you got people that you're living with that are drinking, and if you're able to get away from it, that's probably the best thing to do. But some people don't have that choice, and I know people that have to deal with that. And a lot of them, they end up going to and hanging out with other sober alcoholics as much as they can, and trying to stay away from the people that are being drunk, trying to have conversations with them, not while they're drinking, but when they're sober, and having a conversation about, hey, this is what I'm trying to do with my life, and you try not to have the argument conversation, but just a conversation with them on maybe how you guys can work with each other, because they don't necessarily need to or want to quit, or maybe they do, but either way, you need to take care of your own sobriety.
Absolutely. All right. So, any other pressing questions, let us know. As you age, going out to bars and getting drunk is ridiculous to me. Well, yes and no. Like, if I still drank, I think a bar would be a perfectly appropriate place to go, even though I'm 40-something. And there's
you get pretty old, man.
yeah, there you go. I got some gray hairs somewhere up there.
Your hair coloring regimen works nicely.
There we go. I think I'm just gonna let it go. My dad, he went completely gray at like 50, and then towards the end it was completely white. But he always had plenty of hair. So I'm like, okay, if I can have, as long as it's up there, I don't care what color it is. So,
I got plenty of hair. It's, my forehead's kind of getting big here.
just makes you look wise.
Yeah, big head.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Ben says, yes, it becomes really ridiculous. I see being drunk very differently than I used to. Yeah. And for me, that's the age thing. Again, I don't know, if I was still drinking, I'd probably be in the bars, and lots of my old friends still go out to the bars and drink. And yeah, for me, it's a ridiculous thing to go to the bars, so because I don't drink, so why would I go? So I just stay away from them. No need to go into the lion's den.
No. Nope. I think the closest I get is if you're waiting at a restaurant and there's a long line and there's a little table at the bar, I will go in there and be like, I'm going to sit there because I don't want to wait an hour. But even still,
sure.
It took me a while. It took me about a year to be comfortable in any bar area. And I'm fine with that. It didn't hurt anything.
Absolutely. I'll eat in bars as well, and that's fine too. Sometimes it's the better table.
Yeah.
You know, it's just easier to deal with and better service, and yeah. And I don't think there's any real dangers in that. In early sobriety, I wouldn't have. Just like I said, I approached everything super slowly.
Yeah.
When I got sober, I approached everything with purpose.
And one thing I did, because we would go get takeout food sometimes. I'm the designated cook, and when I don't cook, we get takeout. And I would go to get the takeout, and you have to wait in the bar area in some restaurants. So what I would do is I would go to the restaurant that knew me, and I'd tell the local bartender that was always there, hey, I'm an alcoholic, so don't bring it out automatically, because they will. Like, they would bring my beer automatically back then. And that was difficult. Like, you don't want to be a jerk and say no, and you also want a beer, so, it's kind of like the fire's already lit. So I went out there and I was like, hey, I'm an alcoholic, here's what we're ordering. And so that seemed to help.
Yeah. And once again, you're talking about communication, communicating with people that you deal with in life, and that's what we have to do, is just be open. Well, some people don't have the luxury of being open, but if you're able to, be open about it. And I'm open about that. I'm open as far as I just say no, thank you for alcohol, or somebody wants to buy me a beer, or I remember going to a birthday party and there was 20 people around the table, giant long table, and there they come with this big tray of shots of whatever tequila it was, and I'm like, nope, no thank you. And the person beside me was also no thank you, and they weren't an alcoholic, so it's you don't have to make a big deal out of it when you don't want the alcohol. There's lots of people that don't drink.
It's only a big deal. It's only a big deal to alcoholics. That's what I learned, is the only one who gives a rip is alcoholics, because they want to have the liquor. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody else cares.
Right. And hey, welcome back, Timber. Good to see you again.
All right, guys. I won't go anywhere in someone else's car. Okay.
That's that is one good tool if you're going to a party or a wedding or something like that, is make sure you have your own way out, so that when things do get kind of squirrely, you can politely say goodbye to the hosts and then take off.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you guys have any topic ideas for us, I think we're going to take a break from the AA steps, because apparently they didn't go over too well. I don't know. But
well, we wanted to give you guys kind of an overview of just our take on AA. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think any way that you can find that's going to work for you to get sober is great. way to get sober.
Yeah.
And I suggest that everybody try everything. And if something doesn't work for you, that's okay, as long as you're able to stay sober. Find something that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we gave you a kind of a little overview of a little bit more than the first half of the steps. And we're going to move on to some other topics now. And we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up on our Facebook group with some topics. I look at it every day. So let me know some topics and we'll get them down, and maybe we'll be able to touch on some of them pretty soon.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So with that said, we'll see you guys next week. If you need anything, check out talksober.com. If you want to support the channel, go to talksober.com. Trying to build and grow. That's what the AA, we were trying to grow with those, and it just kind of didn't work the way I thought. But, you know, you live and learn. So, awesome stuff, guys. We're going to go ahead and get you some new topics. Terry's got a new video that'll be coming out tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Very good video. Something about eating sober or something like that.
Eat your way sober.
Eat your way sober. I like to eat.
I'm a chef.
So there you go. Yeah, maybe he's got some cooking tips in there. You know, maybe we'll get sober cooking with Terry. But yeah, lots of good stuff there. So awesome. We will see you guys next week. Check out talksober.com. Have fun. Stay sober.